What is a metabolic disease, and what are the causes of these metabolic diseases?
It starts really subtle, these symptoms. Recurring headaches, maybe your blood pressure starts to increase, maybe your joints start to ache, you start gaining weight, you're maybe diagnosed with like an autoimmune condition. And then it progresses into prediabetes, full-blown diabetes, maybe it's a brain disorder like Alzheimer's or dementia, cancer, heart disease. These are all related to the metabolism. There are no significant changes in the metabolism between ages 20 and 60. No significant changes. So your excuse that you're 40 and there's nothing you can do about it, that's out the window.
My brothers and sisters, welcome. We have an amazing young man, Ben Azadi here, Keto Camp, and he inspires me every single day, and he's been sharing knowledge on ketosis and carnivore and inspiration. And welcome, Ben. How you doing?
You inspire me, my brother. I am doing outstanding. We are here in my studio. We're going to have, I think, our best conversation yet.
I think so. And we've been talking a little bit about your new book coming out.
Yes.
And maybe you could tell us a brief story about what got you to write this book and what inspires you in what you do every single day.
Yeah. I'll first say the red pepper on there is symbolic. It's symbolic for metabolism and spark, not necessarily to eat the red pepper. I will say that as a caveat, but the book's dedicated to my dad. My dad had a metabolic disease, type 2 diabetes, for most of my life, and I didn't really understand it. I just remember him taking his insulin and medication, and year after year, he got worse, vision loss, neuropathy, his kidneys started to fail. And in 2013, he suffered a massive stroke from his diabetes.
Wow, so sorry.
It left him paralyzed and with the inability to speak. The craziest thing about it was that he suffered the stroke in the hospital. We took him there because he was having severe neuropathy to the ER. And the next morning when I went in to check on him, he wasn't speaking to me. And I'm like, Dad, why aren't you talking? And he's just looking at me. I think he was trying to speak. So I flagged the doctors and I said, look, my dad's not talking. He was speaking to me last night. Something's wrong with him. They run tests. Your dad suffered a stroke in the hospital. And it was so far progressed that he was paralyzed. So 9 months after that, he ended up losing his life. I visited him in hospice care week after week, twice a week, 3 times a week. I would play music for him. And he lost his life. August 12th, 2014 was the date. And then when he passed, I had a lot of questions. Like I was angry. I was also relieved that he was no longer in pain. I no longer have to see him suffering. And I was failed by the conventional medical industry. They never talked about what can we do to change his lifestyle? What can we do to reverse his condition? Here are some lifestyle changes. It was never that discussion. It was all about, we might want to increase his medication, or there's a new medication on the market. It was all about medication. And when that happened, it really lit a fire in me because I was treating health as a hobby, but the pain turned it into a purpose. And I dedicated the book to my dad because I don't want others to go through that same suffering. When I was in that mess, I call it a mess because I felt like it was a mess. Now it's a blessing, but I was given that mountain so I could show the world that the mountain can be moved. So I wrote this book to show the world the mountain can be moved and why these metabolic diseases are preventable, they're reversible, and I wanted to give a resource for that.
What is a metabolic disease? And what are the causes of these metabolic diseases?
There's a wide range of metabolic diseases. It starts really, really subtle. These symptoms start really subtle with maybe like recurring headaches. Maybe your blood pressure starts to increase. Maybe your joints start to ache. You talk a lot about this. And then, you start gaining weight. Now you're maybe diagnosed with like an autoimmune condition when your immune system is attacking the body or organ or a gland. And then it progresses into prediabetes, maybe full-blown diabetes. Maybe it's a brain disorder like Alzheimer's or dementia, cancer, heart disease. These are all related to the metabolism. And when there's dysfunction in the metabolism, there's going to be metabolic diseases. Now you ask the question, what are the causes? You would say, and I do agree with you, it's these plants, chemicals, toxins, lean meats, low-fat diets. I do agree that's a big part of the picture there. I would also say in this day and age, these toxins, environmental toxins play a big role, these chemicals that are in our environment. I would also agree with you because you talk a lot, and we have our pup Ziggy here hanging out.
Yeah, Ziggy. It's all good. All good.
I do. One of the things that you educate so brilliantly on, and you just did it on my podcast, that leads to metabolic disease is snacking and grazing. There's a study I put in my book from my colleague, Dr. Don Klum. Get this. It was a patient population survey where he had hundreds of his patients do the following. He said, I want you to write down in a journal every time you eat something, whether it's a full meal or a snack. It could be a handful of almonds. It could be a kombucha, anytime you ate something or put a drink in your mouth that was not calorie free. And the average person was eating 17 to 23 times per day.
Wow. Wow.
So not the 3 to 6 times, the 17 to 23 times a day. And that's going to lead to metabolic disease. There's something I talk about in the book called the Hayflick limit, which is the Hayflick limit. And it's a theory that I actually agree with, but it's the amount of times your cells could duplicate. It could only duplicate a certain amount of times until it cannot anymore. And then it goes senescent, it goes rogue, and it starts to become inflammatory. And every time you eat and graze, that happens faster. The cells reach that Hayflick limit much faster, then they go senescent, inflammatory, and it creates a problem.
What are the most common metabolic disorders, and what can we do about it?
Well, the amazing thing is the body's built to heal itself, as you know, right? God built the body to be self-healing. We just have to remove the freaking interference. We're just interfering with this amazing innate intelligence. First step is to eliminate the snacking and grazing, for sure. Start with 3 meals a day and then go into fasting. I know you're a big advocate of fasting. The second thing is to eat the foods that are supporting your metabolism, not blocking it. That's going to be these high-fat, fatty meats. Carnivore diet is terrific. I love the carnivore diet. So eat more red meat, eat the fat. We just did a whole bunch of content about that. Eat less of these plant toxins, less of these inflammatory foods that are inflaming the body. I know there's a chili pepper on my book, but it's a symbolic for the spark in metabolism. I will say this, though. When it comes to metabolism, it's really interesting because I hear so many people say, I have a slow metabolism, or ever since I turned 40 or 50, my metabolism slowed down. It doesn't matter. I don't even have to change my diet because I'm old and my metabolism is slow. There's nothing I can do about it. When I dug into the research, I discovered that the metabolism doesn't even necessarily run in speeds. It's either efficient or inefficient. And there's one study I put in the book that was probably the best study out there on the metabolism that I found from Duke University. 2021 study, 6,600 people in the study. And it wasn't just a US study. They involved many countries. It was a worldwide study. And they had, from those 6,600, the age group in the studies was from age 1 all the way to age 95 and everybody in between. And they used a really sophisticated test to measure their metabolism. And here's what the study said. There are no significant changes in the metabolism between ages 20 and 60. No significant changes. So your excuse that you're 40 and there's nothing you can do about it, that's out the window. But the study said once you reach age 60, they've noticed a 0.7% decline in the metabolism every year after that point. That might sound like a bad thing, but the study said the reason why that happens is loss of muscle mass. So if you preserve your muscle mass by eating fatty meat and build your lean muscle mass, you could essentially be 75 years old, which you're going to be in such a few...
Not too many years.
Yeah, 75 years young for you.
Right.
But have the metabolism of a 25-year-old. And to me, that's super promising and exciting.
What happens to us, lifestyle changes, do you think that we're missing as we're aging that may contribute to our diseases?
Our circadian rhythm plays a big role. We know our hormones are in sync with Mother Nature, and our ancestors for so many years, when the sun came up, like they did their work, they did what they had to do. The sun went down. They didn't eat a whole bunch of food and watch TV at night. So there's a circadian mismatch. And I think a lot of people undervalue sleep and doing the right things that sync your hormones with Mother Nature, meaning avoiding all this technology before bed, avoid eating all this food and going to bed. We had that text message discussion about the dinner and how, eating 7:30 is even late for us. So going back to the way that our ancestors lived, when the sun is down and it's nighttime, it's not the ideal time to shove food in your mouth and turn on the television.
I look back to when I was a kid, and I have a younger brother. We're Irish twins. He's just less than a year younger than I am. And literally growing up, there was like, we'd be up, we'd be out in the backyard, we'd be building things, we'd be making models and blowing them up and all those sort of things. We were never really sitting around. We didn't really watch TV when we'd go outside. I grew up in Southern California, so there's plenty of opportunity to be out there riding our bikes and doing things like that. Do you think that the lifestyle we're living, especially as we age, and we're not moving and doing as much, what things can we do in order to get back to our ancient way of moving and living?
Getting outside, like you just mentioned. I mean, I know not everybody lives in Miami or Southern California, but anytime you can get outside and connect with nature, it's such an incredible feeling to be outside and just get the sun on your body. I did it earlier today. If you have a dog, it's a blessing. You can go walk your dog, but just getting outside and grounding, putting your feet on the earth, whether it's the grass, the sand, the dirt, grounding yourself, and not listening to a podcast or listening to music while you do it, just being present. And I'm not saying you have to turn into a Buddhist or a monk or meditate all day. I'm saying find ways to sprinkle it into your routine. It could be as little as 5 minutes, 10 minutes, these little exercise snacks. So walking, getting outside in nature, it has profound benefits. And we know walking is such a great tool for longevity. There are studies showing that people who get a certain amount of steps, like 7,000 steps a day, which is not a lot, have a dramatic decrease in dying from all-cause mortality versus those who get less steps. People call sitting the new smoking. So simple things we can do is to get outside, get steps. I know that personally I track my steps with my Oura Ring, and I aim to get 10 to 12,000 steps a day. But find your baseline and increase that step count and just get outside as much as possible. And you're going to find that you're going to be happier, but also healthier.
One of the issues, obviously, is that we live a life of sitting and watching, which we recommend listening and walking while you're doing these sort of things. And for thousands of years, you had to get up and out and go hunt and gather and do the work to prepare the food and even make your teepee and move it around from time to time. And we're not doing that today. So everything's kind of done for us.
We hit a button on the phone and I have somebody with my food at my door in 45 minutes.
and so getting up and out and purposely going for a walk or connecting with others and going to the gym, how important is that?
Yeah, I mean, connection is everything. And that's, when we think about the blue zones, there's a lot of BS with the blue zones, don't get me wrong. But one of the things they have in common, these high centenarian locations, is they have community.
Yeah.
They practice gratitude. They have these long meals where they enjoy themselves. Italy as well. I actually talk about Italy in the book because Italy, when I started studying Italy, and I know that you've been to Italy, correct?
I'm Italian. I've been to Italy.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're Italian.
And my daughter's husband is Luca from Italy.
There you go.
Yeah.
So they're much healthier than us. They have a fraction of the diabetes, a fraction of the obesity. Do they have more gyms? No, they barely have the gyms we have here. They're walking. They're enjoying themselves. They're having these long dinners where they're practicing gratitude and appreciating each other. So there's something to be said by that because their lifespan is also longer than us. Our lifespan, our average lifespan here in the US is 77, 78. They're over, I believe, 80, 81 there. So they're a perfect example of how important it is to have that community.
Getting together with family, friends, community. I think it's really wonderful that we're creating all these communities. Can you talk a little bit about Keto Camp and what inspired you to get into the sharing and teaching for everyone, bringing people together?
Yeah, I mean, I love keto first and foremost. And I look at keto as, more than a diet. I don't call it a keto diet. I call it a metabolic process.
Yeah.
And people are surprised by that because there's nothing new about keto. It's just nuanced or new to some people. All of our ancestors, they did keto. They're in this state of ketosis. You mentioned about like breast milk having a lot of fat. That's true. Babies are naturally in ketosis because that breast milk is loaded with these saturated fat and cholesterol. So in 2018, I rebranded to Keto Camp because I was teaching it for many, many years. I got into it in 2013, keto and fasting. And I thought, man, I really love talking about this. I want to enter that keto space and really be an authority and let people know that this is such an incredible tool in the shed. So I started Keto Camp in 2018, started the programs, the podcast, and it's been amazing. The community is great. You know all about that. You're a master community builder. It's just such a blessing to be able to share this and have like-minded individuals, because let's face it, most people think it's crazy to eat the butter, the steak, the meat. But when you have people around you that are like doing the same thing as you and talking about the benefits of eating the butter with the steak, it feels pretty good. So community is incredible, and it's a blessing to be able to build this community.
And the beauty is family and friends develop out of that.
Oh, yeah.
And the community coming together, even if you don't believe it, you get into it, you learn from it, and you are open to changing. And because we always have to be changing and open to change. Why do you think we're so resistant?
I think that we're not necessarily resistant to change. I think we're resistant to being changed. Meaning people need to wait until it's their own terms to decide to change. They have to be in so much pain sometimes. So, or when we force change on people, they're resistant. But I think people are open to it. But unfortunately, people wait too long and they have to be in such excruciating pain to make a change. But you're right. Everything in this beautiful world is either going forward or going backwards. Nothing stays the same. Nothing. I mean, this wall right here is moving. We just can't see it right now, but it is moving.
Everything is always moving.
Everything. Great.
And it's vibrating, and you know, obviously, with worlds turning, the world's going around the sun, the universe is going around other universes.
All of that.
It's never still.
Yeah. So either you are going forward or you're going backwards. You're not staying the same. Create or disintegrate. Unfortunately, yeah, change. People are resistant to being changed, and being in a community, like you said, the environment inspires you to start making those changes, right? It's like, what's the term where you're something, osmosis, that's the term. It's like being next to something, you start absorbing it. So when you're in a community that's talking about being healthy, eating healthy fats, talking about positive things versus like positive politics and gossiping, you start to absorb that by osmosis, and then that starts to become you. Jim Rohn used to say, if you hang out with 5 people that are unhealthy, unhappy, and broke, you're going to be the 6th person. But if you hang out with 5 people that are inspired, who are grateful, who are talking about health and humanity, you're going to be the 6th person. So choose your community wisely, because your community, your environment determines the thoughts that you think. The thoughts that you think determine your belief system, your self-image, your actions and behaviors and habits, and then essentially it results in your destiny. So it starts with your environment.
You mean by simply thinking that life is fantastic, amazing, and gracious for myself and everyone, I'm going to see that, versus, oh, life is just pissing in a bucket and it's just so sad and nothing ever good happens to me. And I guess the question is, well, how do we make those changes? How do I go from I'm feeling miserable, I have sort of emotional, physical problems, and I think just life is worthless. What can I do to make those changes?
Well, you just said exactly what is true. What you feed energy into expands. It's a universal law. You could disagree, but it is the truth. So if you feed energy into all the things that are not working for you, you're going to see more things that are not working for you. We have something in our brain called the reticular activating system. It's a selective seeking mechanism in your brainstem, and you'll just see more evidence of that. But when you start to shift into gratitude and purpose and inspiration and love and abundance, you activate that in the RAS, and now you see more of that. It gives you evidence of that. But how do you start? How do you make that shift? If you're already just so... I could say something really inspiring. For the first 24 years of my life, I was that person you were just explaining who was miserable. I was bitter. I was angry. I was depressed. I was suicidal. I was just such an unhappy person. And yeah, I had fun, but having fun and being happy are not the same thing. I was so unhappy. Now I'm the complete opposite. Like, I'm just so grateful. I am happy. I'm abundant. I don't have these toxic thoughts, but it didn't start overnight. So what did I do? I changed my environment first and foremost. If you keep getting that input, when I say environment, I mean, number one, the television, your social media feed, your friends, your family, your coworkers. I understand you can't just kick people out of your life like family, but you could spend less time with them. But your TV, your social media, I started to protect my environment. And then I started to replace those time spent in toxic environments with Bob Proctor, Dr. Wayne Dyer, Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. Look at all these books behind me. I started to create these brain tattoos, all these inputs, and eventually it became me. Like, I get into my car and I listen to an audiobook. I listen to your podcast, Dr. Kiltz. I listen to positive inputs. You do that over time, you reprogram that paradigm, and now that's the new input. That's the new operating system. It happens over time. It needs to be that constant spaced repetition.
Mirror neurons?
Mirror neurons.
You want to mention those a little bit and talk a lot about how important those neurons in our brain are, that they see and feel the love of life and not the sadness of life.
That's right. Yeah. So cells that fire together, wire together, right? We know mirror neurons. Like, look at this example right here for those watching on YouTube. Like, I don't know who copied who here, but it's your left leg, but we both have our legs crossed over, right? And that's a mirror neuron thing. Neuro-linguistic programming focuses a lot about that, where you could actually have people subconsciously like kind of follow what you're doing. So it's very important. You are going to mirror what's around you. Your neurons, your brain cells will mirror what's around you. So if you're around people that are complaining all the time, we're going through a recession, we're never going to be able to get healthy because of X, Y, Z. They're blaming other people. They're the victim. If that's your environment, your neurons are picking that up. Every cell in your body, all 70 trillion, is picking it up. And that's going to be you. There's a video that I play in my lectures. It's kind of like a cup like this that's empty, and it's turned upside down, and they put a whole bunch of fleas in it. It's called fleas in a jar. It's like hundreds of fleas, and they just show it here on the table, upside down. The fleas are in the glass, and they leave the fleas there for months, not months, for days, which is like months to fleas. Yeah. and then what happens is, after that time, after they've conditioned those fleas that they're in that cup, and they're kind of conditioned to a certain flying pattern, they would remove the cup, and the fleas would just continue to fly in that pattern. They wouldn't exit because they've been conditioned to think that they're trapped. And then they would have offspring. So they would give, I don't know what it's called for fleas, but they would give birth to whatever. They would have offspring, and then the offspring would fly in that same pattern, right? So it's genetic as well. Like, we pass on those thoughts genetically, and your environment determines that. So it's so important.
So in essence, our genetics are adapting to the environment and passing them on.
That's right.
And you can change it by what you immerse your life in. So as you said, if you're constantly watching the news of negativity, of all the challenges and hardships, you're missing the other side of the story, which is the full overflowing life, which is reading, listening, watching, hanging out with Ben Azadi at a keto camp, and investing in your life in health and wellness. What are your top books that you believe are so important for everyone to read? Do you have a couple that are important?
Bob Proctor is my favorite. He's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. He has an audio series. He passed away a couple years ago. I know you love Bob too. He passed away a couple years ago, but he has this audio series. It's the ultimate Bob Proctor library collection. I'm showing it here on YouTube. So this audio kind of pulls a lot of his live seminars and puts it all together in kind of like like 12 hours, 13 hours of his best material. I've listened to this exact audio on Audible called the Ultimate Bob Proctor Library Collection since it came out 2 years ago. I've been listening to it every day since it came out. I've listened to it in full 41 times now. I listen to it in full, it's done, I restart it. I listen to it in full, it's done, I restart it. I would probably do it for the rest of my life. This is one of the greatest audios. So that is where I would start. Then I would say Dr. Wayne Dyer. has a book called, he has several books. He has one, Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life.
Yes.
Yeah, that
love
one.
that book.
Yeah,
Love
so
it.
good.
I've been listening to it and reading it for so long too.
What an incredible human, huh?
Oh, amazing. Amazing. Out there to help people,
I know.
because all of us are struggling. All of us. And there's struggles, even when you thought you fixed everything, they will come and show up. But there's so many books and podcasts and people that are out there to help us all heal.
Yeah.
Because when you feel like you're already as far down as you can go, there's always up.
That's right. That's right, brother. And these books are great ways to open up a whole new world for you.
Do you think our diets matter in the function of our brains and the way we look at the world and interact with it? And changing our diet can add to the ability for us to get out of the rut of the mindset, but also the damage to the body.
I do. I mean, if we eat inflammatory foods, we're going to create neuroinflammation. It's going to be very difficult to have these thoughts of positivity, to be able to feel happy and feel healthy because of what we're eating. And what happens in the gut happens in the brain and vice versa. You know this. So yeah, it has an influence. But I would say, if we're thinking about like chicken versus the egg situation, it's the, this might be controversial, but I think your thoughts create the inflammation first, and the bad nutrition just makes it a lot worse.
Although the interesting part is, and I wonder what you think about this, is it possible in utero, or your mother's eggs and your father's sperm were damaged by the environment of what we breathe, drink, eat, and think, and then subsequently in utero as a growing embryo, you are also affected by what they breathe, drink, and eat and think. And so you're passing those on. So most of us and our parents and their parents and their parents have been just living a life of inflammation. We don't even know the true real potential of our past, our present, and our future until we begin to crack the shell that's holding us all back. So
yes.
Can we change tomorrow by changing today? Because sperm, eggs, embryos are all damaged. So when you're born, you've already been affected by those plants.
You could break the pattern. Yes, absolutely. And you should break the pattern for your future generation, your future children. What's interesting about what you just said is that, especially like the mom component, because we get all of our mitochondria exclusively from the mother. All of it comes from mom. 100%. Did you know that?
I'm glad you're sharing this. I've heard it. I know it, but it's important to share it again so everyone knows it.
Because I didn't know it until recently.
So can that mitochondria be damaged or reduced in utero?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I wouldn't be surprised. What do you think?
Well, absolutely, because once again, everything about who we are is passed on to our next generations.
Yes, exactly.
And what is the single thing that you would say to those listening today and watching, that where should they go to sort begin to scratch the layer of what's wrong?
I know this is going to sound biased, and but not just the book, Metabolic Freedom, chapter 10 in Metabolic Freedom. You're going to love chapter 10 when you read it. So chapter 10 is my favorite chapter. I will probably write an entire book on chapter 10. It's how your thoughts influence your health or disease. So I get into the nocebo effect, the placebo effect, vitamin G, which we'll talk more about in a second. And I would start there because there's a part in that chapter on the self-image. And you cannot outperform your self-image, the way you view yourself at a subconscious level. And there's an interesting book that I reference in there called Psycho-Cybernetics. Are you familiar with it? Yeah. So this is an older book, right? 1960s. Maxwell Maltz wrote the book. He was a plastic surgeon. I'm sharing this with your audience. Plastic surgeon who would perform these surgeries on these facial disfigurements. These individuals who had just wicked facial disfigurements. They were unhappy, unhealthy. They were depressed, self-conscious. So they would hire Dr. Maxwell Maltz to remove these facial disfigurements. And he did it. He did a great job. But what he noticed is that they were still, after the surgery, even though the disfigurement was gone, they were still unhappy, depressed, self-conscious. They would literally look in the mirror and still see themselves with that facial disfigurement. And he found out it's because they never changed the self-image. They still had a self-image of their old self. And until he worked on that and changed it, then they were happy, less self-confident, self-conscious, more confident. So we do the same thing. When we identify with our obesity, our autoimmune condition, whatever it is, and that's our self-image because we've been living with it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, we can make a conscious decision. I'm going to change. I'm going to do the carnivore diet. I'm going to do the keto diet. I'm going to join this program, and you'll make some progress. But if you didn't work on the self-image, you will course correct. You will find a way to get off course, sabotage yourself, and go back to match the self-image. So we have to change that self-image. And I talk about how to do that in chapter 10.
The medical community often likes to find your disease and tell you how unhealthy you are and label you those things. Is that part of the problem that we're in medicine? You go to the doctor, you're not looking so good, your blood pressure's bad, you need another drug, your diet's bad, and you go out depressed from the doctor with another drug, and what do you want to do when you're depressed? Eat food, watch TV, and be down and depressed.
Yeah.
And so is it something that we individually can do in order to change what other people think and say?
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. That diagnosis, then we identify with it. And some people are even proud of how many medications they take, right? They'll brag about it. And there's a subconscious thing happening that's going to prevent you from healing because, let's say, since you got diagnosed, now all of a sudden your friends are nicer to you, your family members are nicer to you because they feel bad for you because you have this diagnosis. So you could subconsciously never heal yourself because you're getting some love from family and friends, right? It's at a subconscious level. And when doctors make a diagnosis like, hey, you have cancer, this type of cancer we've seen, maybe you have 3 months left to live. I mean, who are they to play God first and foremost? That they're giving them this feedback of a timeline, and they're creating this nocebo effect where now that person will die in 3 months. Versus saying, yeah, this can be an aggressive type of cancer. We have these different modalities. We don't know what the life expectancy is. You could probably live for 5 years, 10 years. We could probably live a long, healthy life. We just have to find out things we can do here. But instead of diagnosing them and giving them this timeline of 3 months, dogs, like my dog here, if you died and said he's like 3 months, then I won't work on him because he there's no effect there. But with humans, we accept that, and then all of a sudden, 3 months later, the person dies. And there's been situations where somebody has been misdiagnosed, and they've been given 6 months to live. That person dies 6 months later, and they figured out they actually didn't have that disease. They were misdiagnosed, yet they died 6 months later.
A friend's story was mother died of breast cancer at 50, and so she decided to remove her breasts at 40. She was still afraid of cancer, and she dies of breast cancer at 50.
Wow.
And so we carry around through our thoughts what ultimately happens so commonly in our lives.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I have to share this. At the beginning of chapter 10, I share a story. You'll read it and you'll listen to it. I narrated the audible, by the way. So it starts off with this story. This is a true story that I got from Bob Proctor from the 1960s. It was in the newspaper. And it illustrates how powerful those thoughts are. So here's the story. There was a gentleman who worked on a train station. He worked inside of a refrigerator cart on this train. One night he was working late, didn't realize it got that late. All of his coworkers had left for the night. He realized, oh shoot, it's past 10 p.m. I need to leave. He tries to exit that refrigerator cart, but he got locked in. His coworkers locked him in. They didn't know he was in there. So he's trying to open it up, bang on that door. Nobody's around. His thoughts started to get the best of him because he knew it was cold. Nobody's coming for hours. He started to freak out. So what he started to do was on the wall behind him, he started writing down his night. The newspapers caught this on a photo. So he would write down at 12 a.m., I'm stuck here. It's cold. I'm not sure if I'm going to make it tonight. 1 a.m., right below those words you wrote, I'm still freezing. Temperature keeps dropping. I don't know what to do. 3 a.m., still freezing. Temperature is dropping by the minute. I'm going to freeze to death. 7 a.m. rolls around. His coworkers clock in. They unlock that refrigerator cart. They look on the floor. The man died, hypothermia. When they investigated the temperature apparatus, they discovered it had been malfunctioning for days and it never dropped below 55 degrees Fahrenheit. He was a victim of his thoughts. His thoughts literally killed a man.
Wow.
And if your thoughts can do that, I make the case that your thoughts could also heal your body, because you have 60,000 thoughts a day. That means you have 60,000 opportunities to put the body in a healing state. You are the most influential person that you'll speak to today.
Is the mind the creator of the outer world, or the outer world the creator of the inner world?
That's a question, man. Well, I'll first say that the mind is not a thing and it's an activity. People think of the mind, they think of the brain. The mind is not the brain. Your fingernail is just as much as the mind as the brain is. It's an activity, not a thing. Is the mind the creator of the outer world, or is the outer world the creator of the mind? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, essentially.
Okay.
Can you change the outer world by your inner thoughts?
Oh, man.
I throw this out as an idea, but ultimately, there are electromolecular reactions within the mind. And ultimately, the mind is creating the colors, the smells, the shapes, the solids, and the liquids. And so I think this is where you really are good, is understanding the power of the mind. I had difficulty understanding God until I understand the science behind God. God is us.
Yes.
Each individual creates the story of the universe. The stars, the moon, the trees, the bees only exist in our mind. They're not real. It's just a dream. Because you could look at a schizophrenic and they have a completely different view or story, or a demented or Alzheimer's patient. They have all different. And you know that you and your partner and me and my partner, we look at the world differently.
Yes.
Because it's a mindset. The master of the mind is to create electromolecular energy and reactions that affect every spark, cell, neuron, molecule of our body, which then create what's solid and what's not.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, a hard part for all of us. And I think that's what you're capturing in this, that you can mold the outer world. And I know you're a vision board guy and I'm a vision board guy, which by seeing these things, the molecular structure of the universe changes and these things show up. And maybe you could talk a little bit about spirituality and faith and how these manage to manipulate our world we live in.
Yeah, that was a really well explained breakdown there. The mind is such an incredible activity. It's just so remarkable. Yeah, spirituality and faith. First of all, I respect, like you said earlier, I respect all faiths and beliefs, whether it's God or whatever religion. I remember Bob Proctor. I keep bringing up Bob, but I love him.
Love Bob.
Yeah, we love, right?
Yeah. And his knowledge will live on beyond his physical life. That's the beauty of talking about it, and listening and learning.
Yeah, exactly. He would share about this big debate on national TV in the 1980s. There was a big atheist guy. You said you were an atheist who was world renowned, and then a big spiritual guy who was like a Christian. And they were debating about God being real and God not being real, and heaven and hell. And the atheist said something. He said to the Christian, he said, the only good thing about believing in God is that you get a lot of holidays and days off. And the Christian said, whoa, wait a minute. You, as all atheists, also have a holiday. And the atheist goes, what day is that? And the Christian says, April the 1st. April Fool's Day. And Bob would say, I feel bad for people who don't believe in God. When they die, they're all dressed up. They have nowhere to go. Okay, I say that in respect. I do have a strong faith in God, a strong relationship with God. And I think it's important to have a belief system in something. And I believe people that have a belief system in God, Mother Nature, love, the universe, are happier and healthier than those who don't. That's what I believe currently. And I have a practice. I talk to God. I have a relationship with God. I speak to him every single day. I used to have a selfish relationship with him where I would only reach out when I needed something. And I think a lot of people, and I want to hear your thoughts here, because I used to think of praying very differently in the way that I pray now. I used to think of prayer as me like begging God for something, asking for something, and sharing my problems, saying, can you fix it? And I think a lot of people pray in between prayers, meaning it's all the thoughts they have every single day. That's prayer now.
Yep.
Would you agree to that?
You're talking to the universe.
You're talking to the universe. That every conversation you have in your head is prayer. It's not just the conversations when you're asking God. Prayer takes place in between prayer, essentially, what people think is prayer. Would you agree?
100%. And I agree that basically our thoughts are the prayers to the creation of the universe.
Yes.
So I always wonder why God did this to me. And he says, I give it to you because I love you. And I know it seems hard, but what good has really can't come from easy in life?
What, say it again?
What good has ever come from easy?
Easy feels good, but it's not good in the long run.
In the long run,
Yeah.
hard challenges, pain ultimately pushes us to be the creators of the universe.
That's right.
And I always imagine, so I didn't believe in God, and I was raised Catholic, didn't believe in God, and became an atheist, a scientist, a mathematician, and a doctor, until God or something, the universe, punished me. Pain, suffering, loss. And then I went on a journey to figure out God. And I found a book called The Three Magic Words. And the magic words are, I am God. Now I'm a scientist. Remember, the science of the brain is my thoughts create color, shape, smell, language, sounds. There are people that can't feel heat, right? Their senses can't feel that. So, well, is it because they got something wrong with their fingers or something wrong with the mind? There's something not working normally in the brain. And so our power is we can create everything and anything by changing our thoughts. And ultimately, God is a word that humanity has created for the all creative power. So whether you believe in nature or the sun or whatever, it's still God, because that's our language we created. Because we're language. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word is and was God, and will always be that, because it's our words, aka our thoughts, that are the creators of everything.
Yeah, well said. And the subconscious mind, which is a big player here, cannot distinguish between what is real and what is imagined, meaning whatever you plant in the garden of your subconscious mind will manifest in your reality.
So basically the brain, so whatever you're living, watching the news all the time or complaining all the time, or
that's your truth.
Your body is like, oh my God, this is like, there's a lion out there going to attack you. And so what does that do to our immune system and our fight or flight system?
Well, first of all, it's designed this way. It's sophisticated.
You mean this is ancient instinctual built in the human evolution and all other organisms?
Yeah, that is correct. But also the TV example. How many times have you been watching something like a TV show with like a gun pointed to somebody's head and they're about to shoot the person? You're like, oh my God, you run, move your head. And then boom, a TV commercial. And there's like a car in front of you or a medication, because the way to get a message into the subconscious mind is through fascination and shock. So these marketers know this. When you're so engaged in that TV show and there's a commercial break and they plant a strategic commercial there, that goes right into your subconscious mind. So that medication, you're going to find yourself asking your doctor about it. That car, you're going to find yourself looking it up on the internet. It's done with fascination and shock. This is done really strategically. Another reason to protect your environment. But you ask the question, what is this doing to our nervous system? Man, it's creating this hyper sympathetic response. We're not designed to be stuck in sympathetic. We're designed to go parasympathetic, sympathetic, back and forth. And we're in this hyperdrive of just stimulation, fear, stress. Stress is one of the fastest ways to destroy your immune system.
Meditation, prayer. What about solitude? Is there value to finding self-time, alone time, and maybe talk a little bit about the difference between solitude and loneliness?
Well, solitude is intentional, it's strategic, and it's restorative. I am very intentional with my solitude. I find ways walking my dog. And when I walk my dog, I'm not listening to an audiobook or a podcast or music. I'm with him. Solitude. I find I have a lot of meetings and I do a lot of interviews here like you do. And I find little gaps in between my schedules. And I just sit, literally go in the backyard, sit in the chair and just find solitude. This is intentional. This is different than being lonely. And lonely, by the way, is a story that you've created. Because if you have yourself and God, which you do, you're never alone. So being lonely is a story that we've created. But solitude is important. I think it's really important to have some sort of solitude moment to yourself. That's a good time to practice gratitude, be in nature. It's valuable for me personally.
Is that something that we should work on in our daily intentionality to find time to spend time with God? And do you think that that practice of, I use whether it's whatever your concept of the creator is, spending time talking to that creator.
Yeah. And to people who have passed on, loved ones that have passed. I talk to Bob Proctor all the time.
And I talk to my mom and dad, and I bet you do the same thing.
I talk to my dad. Yeah.
All the time.
I love that you do that.
Yeah.
And that's because their physical form is gone. Yeah. True. But their spirit, it's still here. Energy is never created nor destroyed. It's only transferred. Death and life are the same thing. Birth and death are the same thing. It's transition. Meaning all scientists and even those that are Christians and faithful agree to this. Energy is never created nor destroyed. Scientists call it energy. We call it spirit. It's the same thing. So when somebody passes on from their physical form, their energy is still around. It's just transferred. It could be in my dog Ziggy. It could be in this camera. It could be right. I don't know where it is, but it's around. So yes, I talk to God. I talk to loved ones who have passed. I talk to myself. I have a great conversation with myself.
Energy is everywhere, as you said.
Yes.
And ultimately, we're making ourselves the best fertilizer.
Well said. I like the way you said that.
And ultimately, I imagine, so if I drop dead here and then you called 911 and they pressed on my chest and they took the electrical shocks and they bring me back to life. So there's some electromolecular energy that flows through everything. And I always also imagine, like, here we are, we have our talk on phones that are wireless and we share this around the globe. It's all wireless, but well, what is wireless? What is that thing going back and forth? And am I able to send you a message without saying anything?
Yes.
And even without seeing you, is it possible that as you're speaking to your father and my father and my mother and my sister and my best friends or those, everyone, we could communicate?
Yes, because it's a frequency.
Yeah.
The reason why, if I grab my phone and let's say you weren't here, but you were back in Sarasota, and I grabbed your number, I got you from the contacts and I dialed you. The reason why your phone would ring, no matter where you are in the world, is because I got your frequency. Thoughts are the same. It's a frequency. There's no time and space when we talk about thoughts. It's just thoughts travel at the speed of 184,000 miles per second.
Is that the speed of light?
It's faster than the speed of light. Let's see. I think it's faster. It's way faster than the speed of sound. I'll tell you that.
Sound for sure. I'm always trying to figure out who really figured out these
How
speeds.
Fast? Yeah, right. How fast is the speed of light? 299,000. So it is a little bit slower than the speed of light. 299,000 miles per second. Still pretty damn fast though.
Whoa.
So yes.
Couple other questions and we'll finish up. I really appreciate you inviting me to your studio. And I'm going to get you to my new studio in Sarasota
Let's
at some point soon. Just a brief, what are your thoughts on fasting? Is it really important? And maybe a little definition of fasting, since most people are eating how many meals a day?
17 to 23. Jeez. I've been there myself. I love fasting. It's one of the best ways to harness this innate intelligence, remove the interference. It takes a lot of energy to digest food, right?
Oh, man.
So much. So there's a process called energy diversion that I talk about in the book, which simply means when you're not digesting food, you're diverting that energy towards healing. Energy diversion. You get that with fasting. I like what you do. You do longer fasts, 3 days, 5 days. I do that as well. But even intermittent short-term fasting is terrific. I mean, the autophagy, the brain-derived neurotropic factor, brain fertilizer, because your body thinks you're going through a famine. Let me give you energy and focus to go hunt and kill, but you use it to just feel good. What it does for the gut, to reset the gut, to lower insulin, to burn fat, to lower inflammation. I'm a huge fan of fasting. That's why in chapter 8, I wrote a whole chapter on fasting.
What is the one thing that I haven't asked you yet that you really want to get to everyone out there?
There's a supplement that I want everybody to take right away. This supplement, in chapter 10, I talk about it. You know what I'm going to say, so don't spoil it, Doc. This is called vitamin G. Now, vitamin G is anti-inflammatory. It's great for those struggling with brain fog, autoimmune conditions, diabetes, obesity. Pretty much every symptom you're dealing with, you'll benefit by taking vitamin G. UC Davis has some studies that I published in the book here that show those who take vitamin G have healthier blood pressure levels, healthier blood sugar levels. There's a new study I put in the book from Harvard, published in JAMA. It's probably the most comprehensive study ever done on vitamin G. 49,275 nurses in this study. Whoa. And the study said the nurses that took vitamin G every day had a 9% reduction in dying from all-cause mortality and a 15% reduction in dying from cardiovascular disease versus the nurses who didn't take vitamin G. There's also a study in the book that looked at something called MHI, Mitochondrial Health Index, which is essentially how healthy your mitochondria are. And it looked at caregivers. That's a tough job. And it showed that the caregivers that intentionally took vitamin G at night had healthier mitochondria the following morning. So take your vitamin G. I don't have an affiliate link or a coupon code. They don't sponsor Dr. Kilt's podcast because vitamin G is the feeling of gratitude, not the practice. It's not an intellectual exercise. It's an emotional exercise. All of those studies are on gratitude. When you feel gratitude, it will change your health forever. So if you're not taking the vitamin G, you take it every day and watch what it does for your body.
Ben, can you share with us in just a very short phrase, what's the best way to be grateful?
To remove the distractions, sit down by yourself. Don't write 10 things you're grateful for and treat it like a checklist. I'm not going to tell you to do that. Choose one thing, one memory, one person, one thing, and live there for a minute. Bring in all the feelings. I'll give you an example. My dad. Let's say I'm choosing my dad. I'm going to close my eyes. I'm going to see his eyes, his brown eyes. He had a mustache like me. That's why I have a mustache to honor him. His phrase, hasta la vista, baby, he used to say to me when he said goodbye. His laughter, me getting on his case for eating white rice as a diabetic. Arguments we had around that, right? And I'm living there. I'm with him right now. That's how you practice vitamin G. You do it as a feeling. You bring in the emotions. Don't choose 10 things. Choose one thing and live there for a minute.
Short and sweet, see the beauty in everything, and share love.
Amen.
Amen. Well, Ben, this has really been amazing. I really appreciate you sharing. And I know this is going to be a super bestseller because I love everything he's written in here, and I know you're going to love it also. God bless and thank you, Ben. Appreciate you.
I love you, brother. I love you. Can I just share where to get, because we have a free gift for your audience to get the book. It's at metabolicfreedombook.com. I'm holding it up really awkwardly here. We have a free gift if you want to get it. The book's available, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, wherever you want to get it. But if you want to go get the bonuses, it's metabolicfreedombook.com. There's a course on the metabolism. It's free, 12 lessons that I built out. And we have some interviews in there with Dr. Jason Fung, Megan Ramos, Cynthia Thurlow, and Dr. Daniel Pompa that you can get for free if you go to metabolicfreedombook.com. With that being said, I love you, bro. I appreciate you so much. Thank you so much for this collaboration.
It's my pleasure always, and I look forward to doing it again. God bless.
God bless.